everybody. We are joining again with Advocata Studio. And as you know, one conversation is about tariff by President Trump, and the other conversation is about tariff on solar. And probably you may have seen a lot of content from Advocata on tariff by President Trump, but I think because of that, we really could not get into a deep dive on tariff on solar, and we have commented quite often about Sri Lanka's electricity and the need for having competitive rates. In that context, we have invited Mr. Javid Kamil, the president of the Solar Industries Association. Javid, thank you very much for joining us and welcome to Advocata Studio.
Thank you, Dhananath. It's a pleasure being here.
Just first brief us, Javid, for the benefit of our viewers. When you say solar, you represent the Solar Industries Association. When you say solar industries, what is it about? Like, is it people know when you say solar, the top of the mind recall probably would be solar panels. Is it broader than that, or like what are the industries? What's the size of the industry? Just give us some context to start the conversation.
Okay. So predominantly, the solar industry consists of rooftop solar. That is where you install solar on your rooftop. And also there is ground mount. But in Sri Lanka, it is dominated by rooftop solar. We've contributed about 88% of all solar in Sri Lanka via rooftops. We do have large scale projects, but they take a long time to grow. So solar rooftop is the quickest to get off the ground. We can do, say, a megawatt in even 3 months. Whereas ground mount would take maybe 2 years for clearances alone.
Right.
And our growth has been exponential. And that is due to the reason that there has to be incentive for anyone to invest. So tariff is the incentive. So solar, though it started off in like 2009, it really picked up from 2016 when the tariff was introduced to Surya Balasangramya, where there came in a mechanism. There are net accounting, net metering, net plus. So net accounting and net plus is where you get paid per kilowatt hour that you give to the grid. So that is what really incentivized people to invest. People who had large roofs went on that scheme. People who want to set off their bill and maybe earn something excess. That is what it is. And also association has large, maybe the main distributors for solar panels, inverters, cables, accessories as well. So we are in terms, not just an EPC. So we also, we have distributors among us as well. And we contribute the most to the rooftop solar industry.
Just out of curiosity, you mentioned for rooftop solar is about 80% and 20% is ground mount. And you said, no, what I wanted to explore more is you said the process on ground mounting solar takes a little bit of time. What is the reason and why it is, and what is, just give us also a color of like what's the regulatory process on getting a rooftop solar to the ground mount and what are the challenges to begin with?
Okay, so the main similarity between both is you need approval from the utility, either LECO or CB. So they will tell you whether you can connect either a transformer level close if you have a roof and a meter connection, then you can do. So ground mount if you have large enough roof space and there's a grid availability in that area and the CB decides saying, okay, this grid substation can take in 5 megawatt, you can actually, there was a feed-in tariff of 2548 where you can put in a proposal. You got to get about 17 different approvals. So there's a lot of bureaucracy.
17
approvals.
Wow.
So that is why it takes a long time. It's a process. But rooftop solar is you're utilizing your own existing roof. You're not going after agricultural land. We are very small in, I would say, land area, right? And agriculture being the main staple. So I would say, and it's the quickest because if you have a transformer close by and there is no line losses, because this is like a prosumer model where you generate and you either consume it in your own premises or someone around that area. So there is minimal line losses as well. So CB is actually buying the cheapest energy from us. But they don't give us, I would say, the credit that we are due, because nowhere in the world do you have rooftop solar having a lower rate than ground mounted. It's only in Sri Lanka, because this is a very sad situation. That's what we're fighting for. And we've been pushing heavily even from the last tariff change that came in July 2024. So we are continuously pushing and we represent at the tariff committee all the parameters and we actually put forward and we've This tariff shouldn't be reduced, is what we're saying. It should be kept as it is because the formula is flawed. The parameters that you put in are wrong. Because if you're an investor, you need a decent return. If they're giving a return on equity similar to a government bond, why are you going to invest? See, so they're playing on certain numbers. There's something called a plant load factor, which looks at the efficiency of a system. To PUCSL last year itself, we've been pushing since last July. We gave 50 plants all around the country, stating that this is for the data for the last 5 years. And we are showing them that, okay, plant load factors do not go, it's between 13 14%, whereas they are taking 16% into their formula. That is incorrect. So anyone doing who can understand a basic formula would realize if you tweak the parameters, you can get any output you want. That is what they're doing right now.
Got it. Javid, first, could you give us a comparison between the unit rate of solar versus hydro versus thermal? So then I think the viewers can understand, because I think everyone knows that the renewable energy is reasonable and it's probably environmental friendly, but they need to understand a bit on the pricing. But again, from the little that I know, the price of a electricity unit may differ from the time that you consume. I mean, if you consume it in off-peak time, the price may be lower because, of course, it comes from hydro. But in terms of generation, is there a comparison that people can simply think? Because there was, if you recall, during the power cuts during economic crisis, there was a complaint that, okay, people are not, the CEB is not encouraging the renewable side, they are only moving to the other side. So I just wanted to have a price comparison for the benefit of viewers, so then they know what we are discussing about.
Okay, so if you look at it price comparison wise, for the latest plant that they signed up for last month was at around 75 rupees
75 rupees per unit.
per unit.
That is for thermal.
Yes. So for what the at that scale, if you look, we were getting 23 rupees
23 rupees.
till this. That's 1/3.
1/3.
And now that tariff, they're going to drop it to about 1446. That's 1/5 of what you're paying thermal.
Right.
With solar, there is initial capital investment where the dollars come in because the dollars go out because of importing everything. It's just 10% of the labor component engineering that you do here. So is it fair for an industry that is collecting funds locally and not sending out dollars continuously for 20 years? So once you sign up, it's the initial investment, and thereon there is no risk of currency fluctuation, right? So this industry, we got hammered in 2022. We imported things at 360 out the black market at 400 because we needed to ensure that there was enough product in the market, right? So when you look at it like that, and now they did do a change. So when the dollar came to 300, they did a change in August last year. But from August last year to today, what parameters have changed for them to drop the tariff by 40%? That is what we're asking, right? There is a flawed formula. Plus, economic factors haven't changed. You tell me, you're into finance. Has the market dynamics changed in the last 6 months?
Okay. Just to, again, I do not have any particular view on this. Just to understand, so how this tariff determination is being done, because we know for the electricity prices, it's the PUCSL who basically regulate the prices on all utilities. For this solar in particular, is it the CEB or the LECO, whether it's the PUCSL, just for the benefit of our viewers, so then we know who decides the prices, what are the price points, so then we can go into a little bit more detail on what are the reforms that we are looking at.
Okay, so this tariff formulation comes under the Ministry of Energy.
Ministry of Energy.
So it's chaired by the procurement department head, as well as it is majority run with CB, I would say high
Officials.
rank officials. Then you have PUCSL, you have LECO, you have Sustainable Energy Authority. So those are the main stakeholders. But there is no industry representation. We are allowed to come and present our facts and figures. For instance, we went and we told them these are wrong, but what we told them, this is a socially beneficial thing. Because look at it, you have basic people who put in their FDs and are investing. You have people who sold properties and are investing because it is a reasonable return, right? So when you have it is a, I would say, it's collectively a social cause. People are investing, and this is not nothing going out of the government coffers, right? So when you have it like that, uh, we've asked at least give us a 2 to 3 rupee premium in addition, because just don't look at it as a formula. But if you look at it as formula, also it's okay, but the parameters have to be correct. So what they're trying to do is they're squeezing it as much as possible, because i I don't realize really why they're doing this, because we contribute the most. And in the last year, with the rate that we had, we contributed 600 plus megawatt. That is
Only through roofs
just
and
just
roofs.
rooftop.
So, okay.
That is more than 4 times of what ground has achieved in its lifetime in Sri Lanka.
Right.
So we can rapidly, if you look at the numbers, for instance, we've by 31st December last year, we hit 1.4 gigawatt. In the last 3 months, we hit another. So now we're at 1.5. That is with a lot of uncertainty. If you let us have the tariff what it is, we will ensure that we will achieve the target. So we have a 2030 target of 70% renewables. The government has in their mandate saying, okay, we want to achieve another 2 gigawatt in 4 years. So even to achieve that, it's a very simple thing. We can do it just by letting us use the existing rooftops. We can connect it. We can give you another 500 megawatt this year, another 500 next year, continuous. We can achieve the targets that we want, but there has to be a fair tariff. We're not asking for an unreasonable tariff. We are asking for a tariff which is 1/5 of what they've recently signed up, right? It So that is what they're giving us now. But we're just saying give it as 1/3. Still, we're okay, right? I know it's unfair, and this is not dollar pegged. There is no risk towards CEB at all.
Okay, got it. And fine. So then, okay, we understand it's a composition of the Renewable Energy Sustainable Energy Authority, and the CEB is in the committee on deciding these prices. So when it comes to parameters of the formula, could you elaborate a bit on like what do they check, whether it's the price of the solar panel, or what are the components of the formula,
Okay.
and what is the recent story of, like you mentioned about the parameter is now they are challenging the parameters quite in unfairly way. Just give us like what are the parameters
Okay.
that they have changed,
The-
or do you know,
Okay.
is that information is available in the public domain?
It is.
Okay.
I think it's a cabinet paper that leaked
Okay.
with the parameters. So maybe public information now. The three main ones they worked, I would say tweaked, is plant load factor, return on equity, weighted average cost of capital.
Right.
And the other parameters that go in are the cost of the system, exchange rate, interest rates, so, and also maintenance costs. So we've done our presentations continuously to this tariff committee. They've heard us, they've listened to us, but what they're saying is their TOI is just to fill in the formula. But if that's the case, there's no point having a tariff committee, right? If you are just going to take numbers out of thin air, because what they're saying is also we are taking published data on systems of how much people are quoting for solar systems. They're looking at import data, they're looking at panel and inverter pricing. But what they need to realize is last January 2024, we were hit with VAT, right? So system prices went up by 20%. The only incentive we had was in China, there was like an oversupply and panel prices came down. But now with the UREF in China, they need to have systems up, and all the systems that they want to run by May, they need to commission. So panel prices are right now at a high. And with China's US-China tariff barriers, panel prices are going to go up significantly again, right? So if we at currently at in the point in time right now, if you look at it, we are at okay, I would say stable dollar at say 300, and then tariffs okay, but it's going to significantly increase. And it's not fair that they take these tariffs because it hasn't changed in the last 6 months. Economic factors haven't changed, right? It's just that incentive has ensured that solar has been profusely growing, right? And you can see on the numbers. But for it to continue, so we are not saying, ideally we would say keep the rated what it is, because nothing has changed. If you are going to make a change, make it transparent, right? Because we are willing to work with the tariff committee. We're working with utility. We will support. We will provide the data. They also have the data. It's just that uh, I wouldn't say, because solar rooftop gives the cheapest electricity next to hydro, right?
Yeah.
So that is how they need to look at it.
Okay. So what's the how does the cost differs from, because from the little that I understood, you said for rooftop solar there's one rate, and for ground mounting solar there's another rate. And at the same time you mentioned ground mounting regulatory process is a little bit cumbersome. So just give us the rate difference, and do you think that rate difference is fair? I mean, the what at least, okay, you basically suggest, you said your story is that the rooftop solar prices are, the tariff is unfair. Do you think the ground mounting solar prices is fair, or is it, what is your reading on that?
Okay. Nowhere in the world, like I said, is ground mounted tariffs higher than rooftop
Rooftop
tariffs.
tariff, okay.
So the proposed tariff that they have for ground mounted right now, that's 1 megawatt and above, is 19 rupees 27 cents.
Right.
And for a similar size system on rooftop, it's 14 rupees and 46 cents. That's a
Right.
25% difference on the two, whereas rooftop solar should be higher than 20 rupees at
Okay.
that scale. So ideally, even if they tweak it, this number, even if it's supposed to come down, let it come to 24, from 27 rupees, let it come to 24, 25, not to 19 and 14.
Okay. Right. Got it. And then if you were to compare the solar rates with, let's say, the region or with other countries, what is the comparison looks like? Are we on par? Are we way below? Are we above?
I would say we are maybe slightly on the, we're pretty much par in the region, I would say. But it's just that we still have a very limited space. So, and also we don't have the grid support.
Right.
Though we have plenty of roof and we have a connection that we can, and we have people who are willing to invest. Right now, they've taken off one of the schemes, something called Net Plus Plus,
Right.
where, for instance, you had even a single phase connection. Previously, you were allowed only 5 kilowatt.
Right.
But with the Net Plus Plus, you could do even 40 kilowatt in your house.
Right.
If you had a warehouse and you had no transformer, that means your maximum would go up to, if you have a three-phase connection, three-phase 30 amp connection, 20 kilowatt. But say a person had, 10,000 square foot, right? And he could do a 100 kilowatt system by investing on his own transformer. People did that.
Right.
By looking at that, just with this Net Plus Plus coming in, we did 90 megawatt just on Net Plus Plus up to December. So that is a new model for people who we unlocked potential rooftops which were not allowed earlier. And this new cabinet paper and the proposal that they brought in is to discontinue Net Plus Plus.
Right.
So which is also very unreasonable, I would say, unless they're having significant issues. The investor is investing on their transformer. Then it comes to being a grid issue. The grid issue is because solar didn't just grow overnight. No, we've been having this 20-30-year plan. There is a long-term generation plan in Sri Lanka, and it's reviewed very regularly. So if we are going to achieve 70% in 2030, there has to be augmented. There has to be grid that supports it. Obviously, I guess we caught the utility unawares when we did 600 megawatt last year. Maybe they were not planned for it. But in the long-term generation plan, there was 600 megawatt of pumped hydro. They've been delaying that. There were 3 stages. By 2025, the first 200 megawatt should have gone through. But now it's coming only in 2027, if I'm not mistaken. So those things could have contributed. Because if solar is growing and they're saying it is not stable during the day, pumped hydro, now we've actually asked for a battery tariff. So that's something that we worked on with the battery tariff, with the committee. We put the numbers, and they said they came up with a workable number, but then again on the paper, when they put it across, it's lower than what our expectations were.
Got it. Also, Javid, could you also, for the benefit of our, because there may be people who may not aware of this, the structures, the Net Plus Plus, could you elaborate what does it mean? So then it's easy for them to comprehend what does really, the terminology. What are the structures that they initially had before this, removing this Net Plus Plus, and explain how does it work?
Okay. So there were 4 structures.
Okay.
So this first was introduced. 3 structures were introduced in 2016. So it was net metering, net accounting, and net plus. So
Net
net
metering,
metering,
net accounting, and net,
net plus.
plus.
Those are the three that was there for the longest. Net metering is ideally, say you generate 300 units and use only 200 units. You carry forward the next 100 units you can carry it forward 10 years.
That's net metering.
That's net
You are
metering.
not getting paid.
You're not getting paid.
You basically produce more, but if there's a surplus, you just contribute it back to the grid, and you are carrying forward that unit for the next month. And is
correct.
there a duration that you can
You
claim
can take
that?
it for 10 years.
You get for 10 years. So
Yes,
within
so
the 10 years, you can utilize
Keep
it.
utilizing
Yeah,
it. So
okay.
it just keeps adding on. And
So as a result, if you are producing a surplus, you will get like a zero bill
Yeah.
on your.
Ideally, it was 0, then they made it 30, then it was like the base calculation of having a meter.
Right.
So then there is net accounting. Say you generate 300 and have 100 excess, you get paid for the extra 100.
100.
So that is where the tariff comes in. It's
Okay.
either on accounting or net plus.
Net plus.
So net plus is where, say for instance, you have a large roof, so you have a factory. What you did was all of them invested on completely covering the roof, because you can export everything more than what. So in net plus plus you cannot consume it. Sorry, net plus you cannot consume it. Everything you give out.
Right.
Right. So then came net plus plus, which is revolutionary. It's something that we pushed for and worked, and it came through, and that is what really incentivized people to do, because this unlocked potential rooftops which couldn't do anything. Like I
Right.
said, there are warehouses which lot of roof space but no transformer.
What is the difference between sorry for my ignorance,
Net plus.
net plus versus net plus plus?
Okay, so net plus is limited to your contract demand.
Right.
So say you have a transformer capacity of 400 kilowatt,
Right.
you can put a system only for 400 kilowatt. If
Right.
you have a 10,000 square foot area and you are, say 40,000, then okay. It's just that you can go up. So your limiting factor is either your transformer capacity or your roof capacity.
Right.
So in the case of net plus plus, idle warehouses came into play. People who have small single phase systems could go and put 40 kilowatt systems, whereas initially they were given only clearance for 5 kilowatt.
Right.
So the investment potential increased by 8%,
Right.
8 times, right?
Right.
So even it unlocked a lot of potential warehouses, and this is that's where that model grew. So they've discontinued that.
Right. So they have discontinued the net plus plus.
So net plus plus, which contributes significantly.
And you're utilizing unutilized resources, having a net plus plus system, because if you're just having a roof and it sunshine comes, then you have that capacity, even regardless of the limitation of the transformer or the roof, still you could contribute.
Yes.
Did I understand it right?
So if you just had the roof and didn't have a transformer, you as an investor could show your roof and put the clearances and get a transformer and do. Because if not, what happens is large roofs would be with factories. If you had the transformer and the roof, then it's a factory. Right? But this is, you can tap all the warehouses, you can tap all the more mills, there's so much of potential.
And that transformer has to be invested by the CEB?
No, it is invested by
the solar investor?
Yes.
Okay.
So there is no cost to CEB again.
Right.
So that is why we also.
So what was the reasoning for cancelling the net plus plus? I'm just trying to come through the structure of our conversation. Okay. First, I think understood about the perimeter of this issue. What is the solar industry? What is net metering? What is net accounting? What is net plus? What is net plus plus? And what is this tariff structure? Who decides the tariff? What are the components of that formula? And what's the unit prices of thermal for solar? And what's the prices for ground mounting solar versus rooftop solar? And now we are coming to what are the real issues, and on this decision, trying to understand at least the reasoning behind the claimed decision making. So why net plus plus is cancelled? Because is it the grid issue that there was a monkey coming and there was a story on that? Is that the reasoning, or what is it?
Okay, touching on the monkey, I would say is something that they try to turn around and put it on us. We immediately put a press briefing and said it was not the monkey, because ideally, if there is a very smart grid management system at Batharamulla, if the Panabuda grid substation went down, they should have been able to isolate it just to that. And it's not just the frequency of 47.5, which they say it, and how, because what they're saying is they couldn't see how much of solar is contributing to the grid. And it's not the case. We said that is flawed, because then the control center should have isolated this. Just because of one line going down, the whole country shouldn't have gone to a blackout. which is a very dangerous situation. It says, and then we asked for an independent committee to look into this, because we said this is not, because we looked at the structures, because this happened first last August. Though a lot of people don't know this happened. It happened on one of the Sundays. There was an emergency meeting called at the Ministry of Power and Energy at that time. So me, along with some of my committee members, went for it. It was chaired by the then Ministry Secretary, Dr. Lakshana. Then we had Dr. Narendra as well. And then they told us this is an issue. They're suspecting solar to be the issue because there was 200 megawatt that was withdrawn of the system. Not a lot of people know this.
Right.
Okay. And they were trying to figure out. At that point, we knew, okay, there's something fishy here. And they wanted to, we knew it was going to turn around to come to us because they were also not sure. And then they were blaming it on us. We said, okay, we will support you. What do you need? Then we called a meeting because they were going to write to people to adjust the parameters, change the frequencies, over frequencies. I said, don't write to customers. Very simply, we have the manufacturers for the inverters. I will call a meeting for all of that. We did call a meeting at PUCS, at Sustainable Energy Authority. We said, we'll give you all the data you want. Tell us what parameters you want, all the data we'll give you. We will support. We will work, because if there's anything of national interest, we are willing to step in and help, right? So we said, we'll give you all the data. We call that, and then they're working in the background to do this. So this was happening in the background. So then this crash happened. So then they're trying to still pin it on us, but now an independent, first the CB explanation that came out wasn't very technically correct, I would say. Then there's another one which goes on to say it was Victoria and not solar. So that's why we are saying, even we are saying, President, at least look into it independently, get a proper audit done on how and what happened, because it is not just solar, because now it's propping up here and there. These are the issues, right? So we are very supportive. We will work with the utility, we'll work with whoever to make sure this industry grows, because we can give the, I would say, reasonably priced energy continuously, very quickly. That's where rooftop solar comes in. Everyone else will take time. We can put up a system in 3-6 months, right? A very rapid, quick system. So we need the utility support, right? Because it's a monopoly. We have to deal with them whether we like it or not. But we are willing to work with them as long as they support us. We will hit the numbers.
Got it. Now, what's the status of the grid situation of the grid? Because from the little that I understood was, okay, on a Sunday the demand was low, and then there are, I mean, from the story that I heard, that there's, of course, it was a sunny day, so there was solar electricity generation contributed to the grid, and the grid could not manage. My argument was, okay, if you have overproduced solar, which is good because you have electricity, then you are generating more, then things could have been changed in a different way, whether we can go for battery storage on a different mode, or it's a good problem to have. I mean, if you produce more excess electricity, is a good problem to have rather than having shortages and blackouts. So is it because of the grid? Because we have been basically advocating on the unbundling of CEB on generation, transmission and distribution, and basically bringing the argument that the grid has to be upgraded, even allowing options like wheeling, so on and so forth. So give us whether are we on the right track or whether there's something different to what we see.
Okay, so since you said wheeling, so wheeling was something that we pushed for 6 months ago.
Okay.
And then they said, okay, we're doing a pilot. Give us 6 months. We'll give you a decent tariff. We'll tell you whether, okay, you can produce it in Anuradhapura and consume it in Colombo. Right. So then they had questions about if it's LECO and CB, how do you set off the numbers?
Right.
Does it need to be under the same account owner and things like that? We said those are just trivial matters. As long as you'll find a way of calculating and deducting, it should be simple. So power wheeling, they looked at it. They promised us that they'll introduce it in about 6 months. Now we passed that target. So if you come to grid availability, out of the 22 districts, 5 districts, they're not giving clearance anymore. Clearance is what you need for even the bank to fund you to invest. And you need clearance to start a solar system. So that is in the hand of the utility. So that 25 districts are out of the best generate solar irradiation areas in the country. Jaffna, Kilimanjaro, Vavonia, Volatil, and one more. So that's 25% of the best solar that you can get in our country. That is because they haven't developed the grid, and there is plenty of potential. People who want to invest in the area is saying, give us grid, we will add in more, right? So this is something they need to significantly look at. If 20-25% of the best yield is lost, there is something wrong. There is something wrong in the planning. This is what we're telling them to look at it. We will support you, give us the infrastructure. Because if they're looking at unbundling, obviously, then if it's going to be a distribution is going to handle separately and then they're going to pump in, then okay, that's good. Then there's someone who's going to take care of that. But if what they're saying is CB's having 16 billion lost in the last quarter and that's the reason they can't pay out and want to do the tariff now, that is absurd. Because if they had a profit of 44 billion in the last quarter and then they drop the consumer tariffs down and they drop the amount in the feed-in tariff that they're paying us, then there is an issue. When you are not averaging out your, because it's cost plus, right? If you're charging someone, you shouldn't incentivize. Even IMF, I think one of the conditions is, okay, it should be a cost plus model. If you subsidize electricity, then we are going to go into the black hole again. We will hit blackouts in a couple of years' time. And if we don't develop the grid and if we don't bring in, I would say, reasonably priced energy into the system, we are going to buy emergency power, thermal, diesel, coal. Okay, no, leave out coal, thermal and diesel, and even LNG at absurd pricing. And that is subject to forex risk. So we have to realize what we are looking at long term. This is not just the short term, we reduce the tariff. This is a long term thing.
Got it. So, on the benefit of the CEB, since they're absent in this conversation, let me ask few questions on their side. So now, ultimately, the tariff that the solar solar producers get has to be bought by someone, and that's the end consumer. So if the CEB argues, no, this attempt is to bring down because ultimately what you produce being bought by a consumer, it could be industry, it could be household, whoever. So isn't it on their side, isn't it an attempt to bring the overall electricity prices down, which affects overall our manufacturing industries and all that? What is your counter argument on that?
Okay. Why bring down just mainly solar rooftop, which is contributing significantly, when you're paying diesel and thermal and LNG 2, 3, 4 times, 5 times more? What rationale does it have? And this doesn't have a dollar peg system.
Got it.
There is no risk.
Okay. On the other side now, again, you are the expert. The little I know, now solar basically contributes during the daytime, but there has to be a base load which needs to come from thermal, and especially during the peak hours, where from the little I know, the peak basically picks up from about 5:30 to 6 o'clock, where the solar cannot contribute to the grid. So in that sense, there has to be a base load anyway, which has to be run by a different, except anything solar. So how do you suggest to contribute, because there has to be anyway a thermal component in it. Of course, we all know it's expensive than solar. So how do you rationalize on that argument?
Simply, if you put it, the pumped hydro, the 600 megawatt that was going to come in, that could have contributed to the base load.
Is that liquid 600 megawatts? Is it liquid or is it?
That is what's part of the plan.
Part of the plan,
200 megawatts of pumped hydro was part of the long-term generation plan in Sri Lanka. So you can bring in battery systems, which are also quicker to deploy. As long as there's a viable tariff, there are plenty of investors willing to do it.
Okay.
And it can be given, because Australia has 25 gigawatts of solar and they're running at about 70%. We are running at 5% and 1.5 gigawatt. It just says we don't have a smart grid, we haven't invested, and we haven't planned well.
Got
okay, that is a summary.
Right. So also, do you have a indication like what is the cost of this grid upgrade, and like what's the timeline, or like what has to happen? Any thoughts? If not, that's perfectly fine. I just try to understand.
I can't recall the exact number, but I think it was about $3 or $6 billion.
$6 billion, $3 to $6 billion.
Yeah, around there. I should have the data. I just
Sure.
don't have it on top of my mind.
Got it.
So that is, it can be done. Once you do that, you can absorb.
Right.
And this is investments for our future, so that we are also energy independent, right?
Got it.
Right now, we shouldn't look at fossil fuel.
Yeah.
Ideally, everyone's moving away, and we are throwing in the idea of trying to have nuclear in Sri Lanka. We're thinking of a base load plant, I would say a backup base load plant as a coal plant, which is, the whole world is moving away from coal. We are thinking that's also part of the plan. They're thinking of base load, backup base load, which is very silly, but it's not very suitable for the future.
And when it comes to, just give us like when the grid is upgraded, like how does it look like? Is it like more transformers, or we have seen like so many cables, on the skyline? Is it going to change, or is it, because 6 billion is quite a lot of money? How does it like, or are we going to go for like underground cables, or what is it's comprised of? Like what, how it would look like? Is it
Majority would be overground.
overground?
So you'll see large lines being pulled. There's discussion between pulling lines to India, because we have areas which are very good where we can generate, and people are talking about connecting with India. If that's the case, if a viable tariff is given, and we can go through the trunk areas, because there is a new I think it's BRIMS, where Bangladesh, India, they're trying to connect all of them together. I can't remember the exact acronym. So that way we can always give it, and also at a price, and I think India is also willing to invest on the line.
Yeah.
So it's about having that ability. If we are generating excess, we should be able to go produce and send it across the border, right?
Yeah.
As well as it will be like a net system. You generate excess, give it, when you want, pull it back. So that also can work like your base load and also a backup, so that I know there is a lot of discussion and argument around this.
And Prime Minister Modi is supposed to, I mean, that conversation is.
I would say, or maybe tomorrow or day after that, that will be on. That will be the hot topic. If it's going to be a G2G deal, I would say it would benefit our country as well. We do really need to realize we are a lot smaller in size and scale of economy, and it's good to have that connection, because they're going to drive for it, whether we like it or not. They look at us as their back garden, right? So if they can generate solar from us and take and support their grid, then it will happen most likely. So we will know the outcome in a couple of days.
Yeah. So just to clarify, so this grid connectivity, you mean that $3 to $6 billion is not for that cable connectivity between India and Sri Lanka, right? This is to upgrade
the
our own
infrastructure.
grid, like when you go on the road, like the grid that
So you need
see.
substations. You need, so how, just to take you how solar ground is done is, it's called on tenders, or you can, now the new model is there's like a fixed feed-in tariff. It was a 24/48. So earlier it was all tendered, anything above 1 megawatt. So the utility will tell, okay, they say, Vaunia, we have 10 megawatt available. You can bid in multiples of 1 megawatt or 5 megawatt, and who gives the best rate will get it. That is a tendered process. So that is connecting to the substation. So these substations have to be improved. Those are the infrastructure parts of it. If you want rooftop solar, transformers in the areas that are completely full. Say areas are struggling, like Batharamulla, Rajagiri, now like I said, the 5 district, then now Hamantos are having issues, Gaul. So it's just that we're missing out because we don't have that basic infrastructure, being the transformer, the larger infrastructure being the grid substation and the lines. So even I know ground mount would also contribute significantly if they have enough grid to connect to, right? They also can go large scale. Now even the deals that are looking at, people are saying 50, 100 megawatt, whereas the largest up to today we've done in multiples are 10 megawatt. So there are larger projects on the line. It's just that you need to develop your own grid. You need to invest on the substation. You need to invest on the line. So there's 150 megawatt that's supposed to come up in Hambantota where they're developing.
And then on the battery power, now where is it at the moment? I mean, how is the battery capacity is developing, and what is Sri Lanka's status? Because I was thinking in moving forward, actually the need for you to connect to the main grid is, I mean, as a resident or like as a household level, is becoming, uh, I mean, the imports becoming less and lesser, because if you have the battery power, but I'm not sure about like the space that it requires and the investment and things like that. But you can give us, where is it at the moment?
Okay. Just to tell you, so for instance, Leco in Delkand area, they're doing a pilot with the battery from ADB 400, where they're looking at about 100 houses beyond metering. So what happens is Leco will take control of their meters. They're going to tell, we will also switch on and switch off your systems how and when the demand is. So they're putting a small battery and piloting it out to about 100 houses. That's a different kind. For a basic, even if you have a solar system in your house, so you can connect a little battery, store it in your battery. You can either consume it whenever you want. So that's called a hybrid system, where, where excess generation can be given out. So the new proposed tariff is on peak hours from say 6:30 to 10:30. You can give it back to the grid. If you store it and give it back to the grid, they'll pay you a higher tariff. That is the smaller system.
Right.
Then you have commercial and industrial scale, say factories or anything which have larger systems. We can start off from multiples of 50 kilowatt to 200 kilowatt upwards. Then which battery systems containerized would be like 1-2 megawatt. So those, for even a simple system with say a rooftop solar or a ground mount solar, you connect a 1 megawatt battery backup there. You will be able to store and also give it. So then that is firm power you're giving. You can continuously give it. So what they're saying is with the sun and the clouds, if you have a large system, there is fluctuations, and that's what the grid can handle. So if you give us a viable battery tariff, we will store it in the battery and give it to you. Now they're given a tariff during peak, no, we can give it. So you will, and anyway Sri Lanka's peak demand will shift. Now they're gradually shifting towards the evenings, and that's why they're giving this tariff as well. All right. So once you store it, if you can continuously give it, even batteries can be used as base loads. It depends on the scale that you're looking at. So then they will look at the large scale ones, 50, 100 megawatt hours, which can be connected as well. So right now there is in the paperwork, I think Leco is also looking at now new systems because they don't have grid. They're saying you put in a battery and we'll give you availability. So that's how it's changing. But from what I know, I think the cabinet papers put on hold. So that is where we stand right now.
Javid, we are coming to the, I mean, final few minutes of the conversation. So tell us, what's your final, now where this first, where this conversation is about, because now there was a conversation about this bringing this tariff down, and what was the conversation afterwards, and what's your like final demand, and where is it at the moment?
Our ideal fund would be that don't don't change the tariff. Let it be where it is, because investors need a viable tariff to invest. We would say the utility to also look at the infrastructure and start investing, because we can support the utility in achieving our targets. And also, if they are really looking seriously at doing a tariff revision, get us involved from the industry. We will, because if they're sitting with us and taking our data and then just plugging it in, but if we have a representation within the tariff committee, we should be able to voice it more stronger. It's just that uh, parameters have to be fair and transparent. Because, like I said, if you're taking a bond, Sri Lankan bond, as the equivalent to an investor, it doesn't make sense. You know they're tweaking it, they're manipulating it, right? Just to put it harshly, which shouldn't be the case. Have it transparent. We will support. Relook at the numbers. We will work together. And if you keep it where it is, the industry will grow. Because if not, you're going to lose. There are about 1,000 companies that are involved in solar in Sri Lanka. Because it's an SME sector. You have the larger players as well, but it's driven purely by the SMEs. You're risking about 100,000 jobs, 40,000 jobs and 100,000 consumers. Because what happens is if solar doesn't pick up and go, these 1,000 companies will start closing down. Then what's gonna happen to the 100,000 customers that we have? No one's gonna take care of them. Then if system, because these are 20-year system, if the systems go down, who's gonna maintain it? Then it becomes a larger issue. So I would say, on the interest of national importance, don't destroy the solar industry in Sri Lanka. Let us grow. We are not asking something unreasonable. If you are looking seriously at tweaking the numbers, and we will also work with you all. but don't be unfair towards us. And what we ask from the utilities, support us. If you're giving a good battery tariff, if you're giving us a good tariff, we will grow. There is plenty of investors who are willing to invest in this industry, and that's how it's grown so far.
What was the response when you had this conversation? I think, did you have a conversation with the president or the minister?
Minister, yes. So we did, and he's saying it's the numbers that comes through the tariff committee that gets passed through because they're the experts. But then we wrote to the finance ministry when we heard of this, that numbers that came out were not favorable at all. So we actually did present our points to the Secretary of the Ministry of Finance, and they took in our observations, because then this paper was just going to pass through. Then they took in our observations, so we did it last on the 25th of March. So that's when 24th of March. That's when we immediately sent across our points, and that was taken very significantly, because they realized the job losses. They realized something's wrong. So they've taken in the observations, sent it across, and for what we know right now, the cabinet paper is on hold, or it's put away. But we are waiting for confirmation on that. So we would say, ideally, what we're going to appeal to the president is, don't kill the industry, because we are very supportive, and we are willing to work with the utility and the government, because we know we can give reasonably priced energy.
Thank you very much, Javid. Anything else that do you have to mention which I did not ask? And
Okay, there's this one out of. So ideally, what we would say is, we didn't have VAT till last January. If you can, because considering solar of national interest, if you can waive off VAT on solar panels, inverters, and the batteries, that would be a significant contribution towards the industry in growing. Then it becomes more viable as well. Then we can look at it. So that is an additional plea. I'm not sure how it's going to sit with the IMF conditions. But ideally, considering national interest, I would say, if we can waive off the VAT, and if we can have the tariff as what it is, and if they're going to change it, make it transparent, get us involved, we will help.
Thank you, Javid. Thank you very much for joining us. And that was Javid Kamil, the president of the Solar Industries Association. Thank you very much, and please subscribe us. And we are available on all 3 channels. Advocata Institute is our English channel. Advocata Plus is our Sinhala channel. And we are also available in Tamil. That's through Advocata Kural. And you can find us on TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, whatever the social media. You should be able to find us pretty much in all 3 languages. And you can, if you really want to know about what is happening with the economy, and if you are making investment decisions, this is a channel that you should not forget about, and you should always visit and check, and you have to click that bell button so you will get the notifications. And also, of course, you can support us through our Patreon platform, because these conversations, these lights, everything cost us. So you can support us through our Patreon account. So please go and become a Patreon for Advocata Institute and Advocata Plus. And we are committed for a free Sri Lanka, which is lawful and where hard work is paid off. So, and that's our mandate. So if you are someone who wants to really see Sri Lanka developed and bringing the standard of living to a certain level, and for the development of our people, and you should definitely consider supporting Advocata Institute. We'll see you with another conversation in depth about a particular topic which will also have your interest, which affects your finances, and we'll see you with another video. Take care.